Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today's message is about those who are emotionally and physically unavailable. Okay? You may have picked up on this sort of thing when you had a request or two and you couldn't get a hold of them by phone, by text, by email. But yet they said, I'll be there for you. Yet they said, I will help you. If you need anything, just call. You might have to call 2, 3, 4 times, but I'll be there. Emotionally, physically unavailable. Was Jesus emotionally and physically unavailable to his followers? Absolutely not. We can go into the New Testament and see time and time again where he met the people where they were. He performed miracles. He healed. He listened. He instructed. He rebuked. He even fed some people who they were more concerned about eating and less concerned about following the precepts of his Father. Emotionally and physically unavailable people. Some of you all, you've come across this type of personality at work. Let's go there. These are people who are not compassionate, who are not understanding that some issues have arisen personally, and you've got to take a day off. Or maybe a week off, or maybe a month after working for them for a decade or more. They just want you to be there. But you have an excuse. But what is their excuse when you show up every day on time? You are following the policies, procedures, the handbook. And when you reach out to them, they cannot physically help you. They cannot get the necessary resources and tools that you need to get your job done. They don't have a listening ear to your concerns. Complain too much, have too many issues, and they start to orchestrate a plan to get rid of you because they don't want to be physically available. They don't want to be emotionally available. Even though they said, I know what they said, but they're not there. They're not there. How about the husband or the wife? Yes, we're going to go there. Who is emotionally and or physically unavailable. You know that he or she is not available to you when you sit down and you talk to them and they turn the volume up on the television just a little bit louder. Or they get up and walk away. Or they act as if they're so busy suddenly when you sit down and have some conversation for them. That is an emotionally unavailable partner. Of course, people make their excuses. Well, I was busy that day, or I had a lot on my mind. But then it's day 1 and it's day 2 and now it's day 5 and now it's a month and then it's a year. And for some people, it's been years that the husband or the wife has been emotionally unavailable. And that is why you take your conversation elsewhere. That is why you go and do what you do. I mean, God, he understands to a certain extent, as long as it is righteous, it's moral. It's not the kind of thing that Satan is having a field day with you on. Listen, I know that for some people, they don't want to hear a message like this because they know they haven't been emotionally available to their employees. They haven't been physically available to their partner or partners. Because you got some who one is never good enough. I got about 2, 5, 7. That doesn't mean that it's right. It's hard to be emotionally and physically available when you got so many people that you're doing for, whether intimately or not so much. You're just simply working every day. And there's a lot of responsibilities. Some people should have quit their jobs a long time ago. Gave them the resignation letter because you know that you checked out a long time ago. I'm not there like I used to be. Let's just put aside all the reasonings as to why. The point is that I'm not emotionally and or physically available to anyone these days. Okay? That's the truth. No sugarcoating, no excuses, no talking about, well, this is what happened and that's why I am. Look, the point is that emotionally and or physically unavailable people disrupt others emotionally and or physically. They're reaching out to you, but you're closed off. They want you to come around more often and you say no. Some people who once relied on you, you decide that no, I'm not going to be there for them. The reasons could be very valid. I once was, but now I'm not. And God may have went on and set up the escape, the exit for you. But for some, this isn't an issue of toxic folk. This isn't an issue of narcissistic types of individuals. No, this issue is that you simply don't want to be bothered. And some folks say, well, what's wrong with that? There's something wrong when no one has done anything to hurt you. God has blessed you immensely, and you simply want to play selfish. Or it may not be you, right? Because on this channel, we do talk about those other people. Maybe they started becoming selfish, self-absorbed. I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. After all I've done for you, and you are not going to listen this one time. I mean, I haven't talked to you in a long time and you are still acting this way. Then this is why some individuals end up cutting people off, because you see, how much time are we going to give emotionally and or physically unavailable people? How long is somebody going to stay at a workplace where every time they pick up the phone, somebody isn't answering? How many times is somebody going to put up with the fact that every time I write an email or reach out to someone, they don't reach back? Matter of fact, I don't even know if they read their emails. I wasn't aware. I didn't know. Do you read? Well, I was busy. You shouldn't be that busy that you're not in touch with what's going on at the workplace. And then somebody gets written up and then they're upset. Somebody gets a warning that we will move on if you don't get your act together. Oh, the nerve of them, the nerve of you, right? Some of us, we've seen it play out. The nerve of you not wanting to talk to your employees. Why are they paying you the big bucks? Some folks have had to confront some people on their lackadaisical attitudes, and they didn't appreciate the feedback. I'm right and they're all wrong. Really? Are you sure about that? When you get enough people that show up in an atmosphere to talk to one person, and the conversations are not positive, they always come back to what they're not doing, it is safe to say that all those people, they are in the right. And it's that person who doesn't want to be emotionally and or physically available. They're the ones that's in the wrong. See, this is a little secret for some of these singles or divorcees, divorcees, some of these folks that's having a lot of relationship issues. It always comes back to, he doesn't talk to me. She doesn't want to be intimate with me. It always comes back to that. Or he doesn't want to be intimate. Or she doesn't talk. Or he rarely is intimate. Or she rarely talks. It always comes back to that. And then when you find out the reasoning as to why people are not emotionally and or physically available to one another, for some people, they'll say, oh, I understand perfectly because I've been through that. Others will say, I don't understand because that man is doing so much for you. He got this, that, and the other, and he's helping you. And then you got some who will say, man, if that was my woman, I would be doing A, B, and C, you see, because that's just no excuse. Something wrong with you, bruh, right? You got some people that they can see the writing on the wall, and that's why some people don't mind stepping up to the plate to pick up where somebody left off. You don't want to be emotionally available. You don't want to be physically available. There's always the next candidate. There's always the next partner. There's always somebody or some group that the Lord will put. Yes, and I did say the Lord will put in front of someone. Because if the individual who is giving, and that's all they keep doing anymore is giving and giving and giving, the Lord at some point will tell that person, cut the giving off to this individual and redirect your giving to someone else. Your service is much needed at the business down the street as opposed to this business right here. They don't appreciate you. Even a bum on the street can walk up to you and tell you, just from observing you for a while, you giving way too much. They ain't paying you too much of anything, right? Now, if a bum on the street, cause just using a hypothetical, but if they could see it, then how come for some folks, they can't see it? You see, that's because some people, they don't want to believe that a person has shut down on them. They don't want to believe that they have become the victim of a person who is cold-hearted, lacks empathy, emotionally unavailable, physically incapable, possibly. Sometimes people got their secrets and they don't want to tell. Well, I'm going downhill in health. That's why I'm physically unavailable. Well, why didn't you just say that? So we had to go through all of this for you to finally come clean about what your issues are. Well, I didn't want you to leave. Well, I'm still going to leave because I put up with way too much, says the disappointed wife, disappointed husband. All you had to do was let me know what the real was. But you gave me all this drama to hide the fact that you got issues, a whole lot of issues. You see, some people should have never gotten involved in an intimate relationship. Some people should have never taken on certain jobs because, simply put, they can't handle. They can't handle all of what is put in front of them. Some people simply cannot handle relationships. I don't know why they're always looking for somebody to settle down with, because at the end of the day, he wasn't available emotionally to the last wife, wasn't available to the wife before that, had issues with the girlfriends. It's safe to say he should not be in a relationship, right? The woman had a lot of issues with the last place she worked. People felt like she wasn't listening. She wasn't paying for the necessary resources they needed to do their jobs effectively. She was out there getting her nails done when she should have been taking care of business at the workplace. But she likes to take 2-hour lunch breaks, right? And these folks will justify their behaviors, knowing full well, I just don't want to be bothered with those people. Well, why would you take on a leadership role? You're going to be bothered with people. I just don't want to deal with all the drama that comes with relationships. Well, then why are you being intimate with a person who's eventually going to want a serious relationship? You see, taking that moment just to sit back and look at oneself and his or her decision making will do wonders for that person who's going through so much. Because God, He doesn't want us to force ourselves into things or into situations or into connections that he knows we're ill-equipped to handle emotionally and or physically. But men and women will do that sort of thing. Some people, the reason why they even got involved with who they got involved with or agreed to a job was because they felt pressured. But they knew deep down inside, I'm not going to work out with this. No, this isn't good for me. This is just the same old. I know how I am. I don't even know why I get myself caught up in these situations, because I know that I don't like to listen to folk. I know that I like to do my own thing. I know that I'm the kind of person that I just want folks to do for me, to be honest. I really don't want to do for them. Ooh, wouldn't somebody be so honest? But you know, the average person, they're not going to be honest. Let's talk about money. Because money affects relationships and it affects employment, right? Whether you get a lot or whether you get a little. The point is that if I'm emotionally and or physically unavailable, I'm most likely not a generous person. There's a lot of cheapskates, a lot of frugal people, whatever they want to describe themselves as. There's a lot of folks that hold on. Well, you just don't know. I went through this, that, and the other. Okay, well, how long are we going to keep holding on? There comes a point where generosity, God's going to speak to you about that. I know some folks, they run from it, but he's going to speak to you about it. And there are those individuals that you've asked and you've repeatedly asked. And then we've told people, go and ask again. But you don't know how she is. You don't know how he is. Keep asking. Be like the persistent widow until you get a result. You see? We have these individuals that, I kid you not, they want to be blessed by the one true God, but yet they are not blessing people emotionally and or physically. They want other people to do for them, but yet they're not willing to do for others. They are simply shut down. Went through a whole lot. Let's talk about it. Let's get some empathy going. Okay, let's get a little compassion for the one who simply says, well, yes, you're talking about me. I am emotionally and or physically unavailable. When it comes to the workplace, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to my money. This is why I've gone through so much. I was once the generous one. I was once the kind and nice and compassionate one. But I started falling away from all of that because I simply got tired of people using and abusing me. Well, this message isn't about you then. Well, wait a minute. So many things align with who I am. Yes, but if you've gone through abusive situations, then you've got to get help from the one true God. You've got to get counsel. You don't keep walking around here being emotionally and or physically unavailable and leaving it at that. You are the one that needs to go down that pathway called healing. Jesus, like I said, when he walked this earth, he was healing people. And some folks, a lot of your issues would simply be dealt with if you would be willing to walk according to the will of the Lord. Get the spiritual healing that you need. Well, I went to this church and that one. And did you go to the church that God told you to go to? Did you allow the Lord to lead you? Or were you apprehensive and you were talking about, I don't know about this one and that one, and you were being judgmental and you didn't like the way the church looked and the people in it, and that's not your particular denomination? You got so many issues going on with you about the church and about the counselors and about this person and that one, that of course you're not going to get any healing. Of course you're not going to get past the emotional and physical unavailability. Some folks still caught up in the X, and in more ways than one. Still caught up with what happened way back in the day. So of course you're not going to be emotionally and or physically available to the person who you're currently with. It's going to be a struggle. The struggle is so real in relationships like this. The woman's trying to get the man to talk, trying to get the man to go places and do things. He doesn't want to. The last relationship this and the last relationship that. So she gets As I said in another audio, she gets all of the attention, all of the from way back when, and then you get the leftovers. Nobody wants the leftovers in a relationship. This is why people sit back and they contemplate on divorce. That's one issue of many. Why should I be emotionally and physically available to someone who's not there for me? You see. So they start creating an exit plan. It may take days, weeks, months, even years, but eventually they get there. We've heard about the marriages that ended after 30, 40, 50 plus years. How long, Jesus? That's what some have asked. How long? And God said, well, it's funny that you asked that question, because we're right now in that season of setting the captives free. You ready for your release? Yes, I am. You're not going back to emotional and physically unavailable managers, supervisors, partners, family members, friends. Nope. Okay. I can work with you. But when you keep going back to that one who emotionally and or physically abuses you in some kind of way, you know you're sick. You know you need some help. No person in their right mind, let me repeat that, no person in their right mind is going to keep opening up the door to someone who is emotionally and or physically unavailable. I know that when I wasn't in my right mind, I opened my heart, my mind, my legs, my spirit to someone who was emotionally unavailable. And I didn't think too much at the time because I was going through all sorts of issues. So I wasn't in my right mind. But when I got in my right mind, thank you, Jesus, I got to see the person for who he really was. And I wasn't impressed in the least. And if anything, for a long time, I was very upset with myself for making the decision that I made. But then God said, take your focus off of your past decision that was not in your best interest, and I want you to focus on me. And when you focus on me and the wisdom that I give you, it is in the wisdom that you will receive the release, that you will receive the peace, that you will forgive yourself for having made the mistakes that you have made. In your selections, it wasn't just one. God ended up showing me in my selections with not just an intimate partner, but with family members, with former friends, with acquaintances, at the workplace. You start to see a pattern of opening up yourself to people who are not going to be open to you. And then that's when you say, okay, I've got to keep the folks who are the type of individuals who value a connection with me close. But those other ones, I've got to distance myself because they're not going to draw me near to the one true God. They're going to keep me away from him. And I don't need those people in my life. And the Lord, he will bless you immensely for giving up some folks that were hard to give up. He will bless you immensely when you decide to do what is right and keep those who are offering up their emotions, offering up, things to you physically. Whether it's at the workplace or whether it's your intimate relationship with someone who you are married to. And I stress that, married to, because in those relationships where there is no marriage, God doesn't honor, because it's not a covenant marriage. It's not one where you have given your life and your partner has given your life to one another under the eyes of God. You see, it's just people just talking amongst each other, and that's that. There's no physical statement made among the peers that we are in fact going all the way with this. There's just talk behind closed doors under sheets, right? And then people feel like they can leave whenever they want to leave. So To be emotionally and or physically available, number one, it's going to take trust in yourself as well as trust in the individual or group, right? To be emotionally and physically available is that you've got to have some type of love for self. A lot of people, they're not emotionally and or physically available to anyone because they don't love themselves. To be truly emotionally and physically available, you've got to have some type of spiritual connection to the one true God. And if you don't believe in him and you don't believe that he works in and around, then you're going to always be that guarded one, that one that has a void in his or her heart. Okay. And chances are that's what's happening to some of you all. You're connected to someone who just does not have a compassionate place in his or her heart for people. Okay. And then some people will say, well, they can have that sort of thing even if they're not with the one true God. Yeah, they learn how to mirror. They learn how to mimic those who are believers, their behaviors. Okay. But then anger them enough and then you'll see the cold-heartedness creep up. And then, of course, one has gone through some type of counseling over the years, whether it's been someone who they trust and that person has they just have that lifestyle that exemplifies that they are, in fact, an emotionally and physically available person. They do generous acts. They're kind and they know how to teach others to be that way. So these people who are there, they just have good mentors, good examples around them. You may be that one. You just get sick and tired of being around people who are emotionally and or physically unavailable. And I get that. So we pray for those people. We pray for those who are lost. We pray for those who seriously need Jesus like yesterday. We ask that the Lord protect us emotionally and physically from people who are just not there for us. Why put so much hope in someone that is just not going to meet you halfway in a relationship, in a business partnership? Okay. Why invest so much money and time into people who just don't want a solid connection with you in no way, shape, or form? I know it hurts. I know for some people it makes you so sad. It makes you borderline depressed to think about it. But you've got to do something to safeguard yourself from these people out here who just don't want what you want. And that is a connection. Simply put, a quality connection. Well, blessings to you, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. You've been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment. Also, check the description box for anything that might be of interest. If this audio has been a blessing to you, you'll want to keep up with the latest audios, so it does help to subscribe. And if you would like to give, you're welcome to do just that. We do welcome giving on this channel. And thank you once again for listening. Blessings to you.